Hey guys, welcome back. BDCKR here, and we're back with our recap of all things Injustice. This is the week of January the 9th, 2025. The current challenge is static. It is a 1-week repeat. Required characters are Flash, Green Arrow, and Green Lantern, who can all be found as cheaply as bronze characters in the store. Static's passive is Aftershock. Immune to power drain. Successfully blocking special attacks generates power for Static. He's got 1050 attack and 1050 health. Last available December 28th, 2023. So he's got slightly lower stats for challenge character. Just a bit of trivia. We used to have a bit of fun with him where you could double his basic damage without gears. So that video explaining it is linked in the description. But this glitch is not that useful considering the current meta favors specials against basic damage. So there's two parts of his passive. The first part is being immune to power drain, which is pretty good. You can see that I forget that sometimes and tag him out when the opponent's Rebirth Raven tags in, even though she won't steal his power. And that's usually why I'm tagging him out, and non-optimally tagging him out. The second part of his passive is generating power by blocking special. It's pretty good, unless it's an unblockable special. You just need to hope that you can survive it with either enough health or gears to reduce the damage taken. So it used to be one of the toughest decisions, right? When you've got a decent passive like this in parts and they're not in sort of sync with each other. That tough decision is which way you're going to lean. Do you make him tankier so he can survive block specials and that way you generate power? Or do you make his specials more powerful, assuming that you will generate power from his passive? And the way I like to play him, I mostly ignore the part about generating power from blocking specials. Surprisingly, his signature gear, Charged Disc, is actually pretty good on him. A lot of signature gears are not. So the Charged Disc blocking stops 22% more damage. There's a static area effect where Static will do 15% damage from his special 2. And when evolved, there's a 20% chance to reflect all specials while blocking. And unlike other gears that reflect damage, I believe his gear has a 20% chance to reflect all the damage. Other gears, that usually means, you're splitting some of it. Reflecting means 50% for you and 50% for me. Splash damage on 15% on special 2 is as good as Fourth World Godly Mace. The real key, though, is not in his passive. What it doesn't say is that his special 1 stuns every time, even though the stun effect is not listed in the special 1 description, and even better, there is no damage reduction for having that effect. So pretty much every other special with a secondary effect has reduced damage. This one does not. So that's great. But the problem with relying on a special 1 is multiple hits, which generates too much power for your opponent when they land unblocked, which would be fine if you could take that opportunity and knock them out while they're stunned, but you're down 1 bar of power if you want to stun them, and you've got at most 2 bars of power left, often 1 or less. So yeah, you could use Cloak of Destiny or Necron Scythe on Static to boost stun damage. Often he's just not doing enough damage still. So, and yes, you could tag someone in, but unless they're a big basic damage dealer, you're not going to get enough damage output. And if you're making Static your special specialist, his teammate isn't consistently tagging in with a lot of power multiple times. Yeah, and you could try to make his teammates have a bunch of power, but, it's a bit of work and everything comes at a cost. When you've got a perfect solution and you don't have to struggle so much is Rebirth Raven. So we use Rebirth Raven on a lot of teams to highlight the other characters, but there is a really super synergy between Rebirth Raven and Static. And we're demonstrating it in a lot of the fights here, right? Static comes in, stuns, and gives the opponent enough power to make it worth stealing. Raven steals it and does 2-hit stun damage on her special 1. Boosting with both Cloak and Scythe, it's so high that the first hit of her special 1 is often better than most 1-hit specials. And because we're highlighting Static here, we take a quick look at the first opponent. If the first opponent has low enough health, we don't even need to bother with that. We'll just drop in and do a special 2. But it's a great alternative to have that special 1 strategy with Rebirth Raven and that really great synergy. We've done a team video that goes over the strategy in way more detail, linked in the description also. Static has Claw of Horse as its third gear, which handles Astro Harness really well. If you're willing to give up that gear shattering ability, something with damage over time like Ibis Stick is pretty good because you have the possibility of supercharged and stacked damage over time from the Ibis Stick and Master's Death card having that interaction on the second tag in. So yeah, there's not really much else to say. Hawkgirl doesn't really matter. She's there for her passive. Every once in a while she's necessary if either Static or Raven get knocked out accidentally. But basically, I think all the adjustments and variations of this team, basically Rebirth, Raven, Hawkgirl, Static, works really, really, really well. So this is week 37. Since the end of the 4-year repeating challenge cycle, we are still in uncharted territory. There are still 12 more missing challenge characters that may potentially be put into the schedule. You know, they spent a bunch of time putting, I think, I want to say 10, 12, 10, 11 of the bringing 11 characters back. And then they stopped. So there's 2 dates to pay attention to. February 20th of this year will be the last chance to add missing challenge cards to have a full alternating cycle. So they'll be able to swap out with back and forth between characters that have been getting lots of repeats versus the ones that are missing. Or 8th of May, which is will be Classic Scorpion. If no more missing challenge characters are added, then we'll find out the week after on the 15th whether any of those missing challenge characters are coming back. So 2 dates to watch out for. This week's multiplayer reward is Time Capsule, which becomes Quake Engine. When maxed out, there's a 40% chance to power steal 100% of a Special 2's cost. Specials and damage over times do 50% extra damage against an enemy with less than 1 bar power. When it's on Joker, it increases enemy tag cooldown by 8 seconds. And when evolved, after applied damage over time finishes, there's a 100% chance to re-trigger the damage over time on an active enemy. Last available June 6, 2024. Unlike the challenge cycle, nothing is missing from multiplayer rewards. If the pattern holds, and it's been holding now for a few years, next week should be Gingold Soda. Now, this is a great piece of equipment for specialist who specializes in damage over time. Specials cubed. But not just for that, and we'll go into that in a bit more detail. But the extra damage on specials and damage over time of plus 50% is excellent. It's excellent when we use it on our Flashpoint team. Aquaman starts out immediately doing special 1, so there's a good chance of getting this boost. It is also excellent on Rebirth Raven, who doesn't have, despite her not having natural damage over time, she'll often steal power, so she will be performing specials against an opponent with less than 1 bar of power a lot of the time if you're using it properly. Retriggering damage over time on an active enemy when the first one runs out is effectively doubling the amount of damage over time that you're doing. And we used to think that a 40% chance to power steal on Special 2 was just okay because we didn't use Special 2 enough with damage over time specialists. We were wrong. This gear is excellent on Arkham Knight Catwoman. So you get the benefit of doing the repeated damage over time. You get the benefit of doing the extra boosted damage over time, the boosted damage. Because sometimes the character facing her doesn't have any power. And then even if they do have power, 40% of the time, you're going to steal it on the first hit. And then everything else gets boosted after, which is great. What else? Joker's specific ability with this gear to keep the enemy in for an extra 8 seconds means they have 8 seconds and more to take damage over time instead of tagging out and rinsing off damage over time, and that helps with a high-level Joker like Arkham Origins Joker. It's also pretty good on Bounty Hunter Lobo, who locks in characters from tagging out with his damage over time. His damage over time extends with each Special 2. Quake Engine doubles that time that the opponent is locked in, and yeah, lots of examples of that. Great gear for a lot of different characters. And I guess if you use Quake Engine Bounty Hunter Lobo with that passive, it's almost as effective as Arkham Knight Catwoman's ability to prevent rinsing of damage over time. Locking the opponent in means the opponent is taking more of that sweet, sweet damage over time. And it works even when Joker is not active in the fight for causing the player to stay in the fight 8 seconds longer before they can tag out. So in the store, Flashpoint Batman, $24.99. It's corroborate included next week's challenge, which is what we expect based on the old challenge cycle. It comes with 100,000 credits. It does not unlock them in your store, so not a great deal. The other new pack this week is the Icebreaker pack, also $24.99 Canadian, the only currency that matters. You thought I'd forgot, right? It comes with Killer Frost Regime, and Luchador Bane, all challenge characters. And we've got the second week of the character bundle Arkham Allies, which we talked about last week. What else? So nothing else new in the story. Everything else has been around for, if not forever, at least years. Phantom Zone. It has been gone now. I think this will be the second week it's gone for, so it should be back next week. Fight 62 is still broken. Last weekend's breakthrough for golds was, as expected, Cyborg, Batgirl, and Black Adam. This coming weekend is probably going to be Deadshot, Wonder Woman, and Static. There is a link in the description to a thread in the Injustice Mobile subreddit from Devlin16 that goes over the complete breakthrough cycle. As far as current glitches go, we will go into more detail every time something significant changes, which did not happen this week. But even if nothing changes, we still do a more detailed review once a month, the first week of every month. Most recently, that was a recap from last week, January 2nd. You can also see a video tutorial for every working glitch in our playlist, Current Working Glitches, linked in the description of this video and in the eye in the top right corner. The main thing worth mentioning is that the challenge reset glitch has been confirmed to be working on this week's static challenge. And that's it. So, this is where we like to give a big thank you to our patrons on Patreon. That's Michael Devries, Irvin Ruiz, Hoshi127, and Nora Klimek, who are supporting us on the credited level. And we also like to thank you for watching this video. We'll see you next time. Komoda.